Hello and welcome to React Native Radio. I'm your host, Nader Dabit. Today on our panel, we have Gaëtan Renaudeau.
Hey!
And today our special guest is Gaëtan Renaudeau, and we're going to be talking about a lot of different things, but we're going to start off with React Native GL and GL transitions and then go to in a few different directions because he's working on quite a few things that are interesting and we want to try to touch on as much as we can. Welcome to the show, Gaëtan.
Hey, thanks. Nice to have you to be here. My name is Gaëtan Renaudeau. I live in France, and I'm the author of GL React. So initially, it started a few years ago in my startup called Project September, and it was like a fashion app, a fashion mobile app. So we were one of the first developers coming into React Native, really at the very beginning of React Native. And at some point, we had this need that we wanted to make effects on top of images. Like basically, we have some text, and we wanted to make the text fade nicely on top of images. So basically, it's like a title on images, and we wanted really to have like smooth integration of this. And basically, we used some blur under text and. So it was quite interesting field. So basically, we used the OpenGL. Initially, we wrote a specific implementation of that in a native, and then we ended up saying that why not re-implementing the full WebGL stack on top of that. So that's what we did with also with help of Expo, the company Expo. So that helped us on the implementation. We iterate a few times with them. So it was quite interesting. And then GL React also works on top of web. Also even have implementation for Node.js. So yeah, it's quite interesting because it's exactly with React you have React and you have React Native, React DOM. So basically you can have universal parts into GL React, into React. And then all platform specifics implementation will be on other libraries. So yeah, that was quite interesting field. And GL transition is another project I have. So basically the idea is to be able to write complex image effects. So transitions between two images, and that use as well OpenGL for that. So yeah. So yeah, that's it for my introduction. So also recently I've joined a company called Ledger, which so it's in cryptocurrencies world. So basically we develop a hardware wallet for Bitcoins and other altcoins. And it's quite interesting because basically you have this device which is a hardware. And we communicate with it in USB, and basically we are developing an Electron app that communicates by USB. And we even are currently developing a mobile app, so with React Native. And it's quite interesting field because we are using Bluetooth to communicate with the device. We are using USB, so it's quite interesting.
Wow, that's a lot of things you're working on. I wouldn't mind kind of getting a quick introduction about maybe how you got into working with React Native in the first place. Were you initially working with React and then you kind of found yourself working with React Native within your company, or how did that happen, or was that maybe on your own time?
So I explored React at the very beginning as well. I think it was the version 0.12 or something like that. So that's really at the beginning. And I explored it in trying to push the technology very far. And I was so amazed by React at the time because as far as I could push it, I never reached a blocking point or anything. There were always a solution to fix my issues. So it was quite a blast for me. And then when I joined this startup, we were lucky because we were just, I think, 3 developers. So we were so open-minded, and we all agreed to just start with React Native, and that worked. So it was quite an interesting experience because at the very beginning of React Native, everything were very, very unstable, and you feel it was really blazing, like blazing edge. Sorry, is this the correct word? Blazing
Yes,
edge?
it is. Yes.
Sorry. So bleeding edge. Sorry. So yeah, you really felt it was bleeding edge, and like there were a lot of breaking parts and things like break over versions. But as I think now it's much more stable these days. So when it reached more stability, then it's much better now. We don't really have breaking changes every time. So yeah, like it was fun because I did like I think one year of break. So 1 year I didn't work anymore with Break Native, and then recently I came back to it, and yeah, like you feel things have improved. Especially like I'm really amazed by Flatlist, which is a much better implementation of we used to have something called list view, which was a different paradigm, and I mean, yeah, you had to manage your data source and things like that. And it's quite interesting, and like especially a new component called section list. I think it's so great because you have like this kind of native UI, and you can express things in terms of section, not anymore having to find some weird hacks to implement that.
Yeah, I just wish that you would work on more and cool projects, man. I'm looking at your GitHub, and it's just everything that's hot right now. It's amazing. You have GL, it looks like you have React Native View Shot, which takes snapshots, or you worked with that, and that's in C#. That doesn't even make sense in my brain.
Yeah, that's in Objective-C, and I think it says C# because there is also a React Native Windows implementation. I didn't write it the way it was a contribution, but Objective-C and Java otherwise. So yeah, it was also coming from at the time I was in this startup because we wanted to basically export the content you created on. And the content is not just an image, it has some dots on it, it has a title. So we need to basically rasterize this. And so basically the way we did it is just, okay, let's just write, like, we know to write React, so we can just write your virtual DOM, and then we want to snapshot that and into an image, so basically to rasterize and save to a file or share to Twitter or things like that. So yeah, that came from this need, and it's quite amazing how it became popular, and we still have a lot of contribution on it. So it's quite interesting in this project because like all the contributors, you have a lot of Chinese contributors. So I really feel that React Native is huge in China. Maybe they develop a lot of apps, but it's quite interesting. It has some.
Yeah, that's amazing. I have a question. So I think a lot of people might have seen your work, even if they don't even realize that it's yours. You did a fantastic presentation, I think, React Conf 2016. I just have a couple of questions for the rest of us moment. As a person who's always appreciated graphics, but who has the artistic skill of a 3-year-old, my questions to you is like, how much linear algebra do you really need? What would be your advice for people wanting to get started with, using OpenGL worked in with React and worked in all these different ways? Would it be examples? Would it be writing our first transition? What would be the best way?
Yeah, so I feel it really depends on what you want to build. But what I would recommend if, like, let's say you want to do something with 3D, I think you will probably go into using a library like 3JS, for instance, that provides you some abstraction on top of WebGL, because of course WebGL is quite low level and you have a lot of things to learn. Otherwise, if you just write some effects, so typically with GL React, because GL React is actually implementing a subset of WebGL. You cannot do everything with it. It's just like focused on basically making effects on top of images. But still, we can implement a lot of things in this just in this subset. So basically, GL React, you need to learn a special language which is a GLSL. So it's quite, I guess the tricky part of GLSL is to understand the paradigm, but because it's quite different in how you draw things. Because, like in most libraries, like in UI libraries, you you will have some APIs that say, okay, draw a rectangle here, draw a circle here, draw this text here. Here in this paradigm in GLSL, instead, it's much more functional. That's why I like to call it functional paradigm, because basically you will express a function that takes a position on the screen, and then you have to give a color. So you have to implement this function, and so it's much different paradigm. So basically, if you want to draw a circle, then you will have to use the distance. Like you will have to do x square plus y square is lower than this radius. Then I will return this color, or I will return another color, and then you have your circle. So you see, it's quite different paradigm. But yeah, just to come back on your question. So I guess, yeah, if you do 3D, maybe you go 3GS or any scene graph library. If you want to do something with a lot of sprites, like a game, a 2D game, for instance, I guess you could use a Pixie.js, which is quite interesting. And I use it sometimes when I do some game jams. Otherwise, I don't know. I mean, you can directly write also GLSL if you are quite pro in it, but it's quite complex language.
Nice.
Yeah, this summer I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with GLSL. Actually, I wrote a game for 128 pix, which is like a low res jam thing, and it was quite interesting. I explored a paradigm called distance estimation functions, and yeah, if you want to take a look at this, it's very interesting paradigm. It's also not easy to to make it efficient, but it's very interesting. So it's basically remarching. So yeah.
What's the name of the tool?
So it's basically a concept called remarching distance estimation functions. So basically, like a function that estimates the distance of the closest object in space. And with this function, you can basically render a 3D world. So
nice.
Like you implement the distance, what is the distance for this given position to a sphere, for instance. As soon as you have implemented that, then you can basically throw rays for each pixel of the screen. You throw rays like if it was a real physics, like you throw some lights. And as soon as it hits, so it's basically an algorithm. As soon as it hits the object, then you can return the color and so basically it's all, yeah. So it's like physics-based approach to 3D rendering. Of course, it's not efficient, but it's super powerful what you can do with it. And I think there is some real world usage of that, and I think in some games they use that, but obviously not for everything, but mixed with other techniques. But it's quite interesting.
Very cool. Yeah, I like that a lot. I'm sure we'll definitely have lots more questions now that you said the cool word games. Just wanted to ask you one more real quick, but before we move on to that, and I know Nader definitely wants to ask you some of those, but you said, so as long as I use GLSL, so does that mean like everything in the GLSL sandbox.com, those are things I could also do with React.jl?
Yeah, GL React, yes, definitely. Yeah. Yes.
Oh, wow.
It's quite started from this. Like my exploration of GLSL started with GL exactly this website you mentioned, GLSL. I think it was heroku.com or something. Yeah, so it used to be, it changed a few times, but anyway. So yeah, it started from this, and also ShaderToy was it's really interesting to learn GLSL. And yes, so actually yes. So basically, these two websites use I would say it's a hack, but basically we do everything with just putting a big triangle that covers the full viewport. So basically we don't really do 3D, but instead we just focus on one part of OpenGL, which is the fragment shader. So basically in OpenGL you have two concepts. You have vertex, which is done with the vertex shader, and you have a fragment shader which colors the pixels. And with these two websites and with GL React as well, we just focused on the fragment shader part, which is coloring the pixel based on the position. So yeah, so this means you can do whatever you can see on Shudder, you can port it to GL React, definitely. But GL React have also I guess it's a bit wider idea that it's not just implementing GL the surface and just one shader that covers like a canvas, because it's easy to just do that. But what GL React tries to achieve as well is to basically you can compose the same way you can compose in React. So basically you can chain some effects. So with just virtual DOM basically. So you can do a blur, and inside the blur you have a gradient, and then inside the gradient you have something else, or like you can chain effects like monochrome, or I don't know what effects, but inverse color or things like that. So yeah, we have this idea that we can basically write a tree with virtual DOM, and it will be transformed as basically as a scene graph, like a series of effects that pipes into each other. Yeah, it's quite interesting. It was quite interesting to try to implement this paradigm, and it's interesting because like we had the V2, the version 2 of GL React, which used to consume like it had an algorithm that consumes the virtual DOM tree, and in the version 3 we no longer do that. We just leave the React tree, and just using the hooks like component did mount, component will mount, things like that, we can basically rebuild a graph how things connecting to each other. Because so I think I've learned that how to do things more properly with React, and the previous version, the previous implementation was not good, and it's quite interesting because I think React Router had the same issue. Like in the previous version, they used to just try to consume the virtual DOM, so going like into trying to understand what children is. But I don't think it's a good practice at all, because then it means like basically children needs to be a black box. You don't really know what inside it. And if you consider things like that, then you can like the user can do much more powerful things. Like for instance, you can use a React motion on top of things, and like because if you assume that the children needs to be an array of let's say routes, then you can no longer wrap them. So yeah, I'm not sure I'm clear.
No. So you seem to be super interested in kind of the whole GL and working with transitions and things like that. Like what interests you about this paradigm, and kind of like why have you decided to kind of build a lot of stuff around this?
Yeah, good question. I'm not sure myself. I mean, it's super interesting paradigm. I like everything that touch that is between different worlds, because it's like visual things. It's like more up to designers to do this kind of things, and then we are developers. So it's a bit between these two worlds. So I like it, and it's like game developing in general. It's a mashup of a lot of different things. Like you have music composition, you have game design, you have a map level design. So there's a lot of different fields, and it's quite interesting. And yeah, of course, on the developer side, you have a lot of things to work on, like optimizing algorithm and like collision detection, things like that. So there's a lot of interesting fields.
So other than some of the stuff we've been talking about around GL and transitions and some of the other libraries, well, first of all, I can't believe you were behind ViewShot, because we've shipped that in a couple of production apps, and I had no idea that you wrote that. But now that I know your GitHub and stuff, I'll probably recognize in the future other stuff that we use. So that's pretty cool. But like, what other things are you interested in and that you're working on with React Native, other than kind of the things that we've already talked about?
Good question. I need to look at my GitHub.
No, I mean, it's hard to kind of, I was looking at your GitHub, and you're involved with so many different things. I'm also kind of curious where you find the time to do all this stuff, or are you just extremely efficient?
I don't know. Yeah, because I have two kids at home, so I guess I have less time than I used to have. But I mean, I still find the times from. Usually, like I kick off things in one weekend, or I don't know, like quickly kick off things, and then it's more maintaining work once you have done things. But I had a lot of fun with Expo recently. As I also helped at React Europe recently, there were React Europe, and I helped Brent from Expo. He was doing a workshop, so I helped him we had a few sessions with GL React as well. In the workshop, it was quite interesting to make people use GL React because, I mean, you see where we're thinking about it, like some part is not as easy as you like. Maybe I'm a bit crazy, but I find some part really easy. But when you really make it test to people, then you figure out that okay, so it's not so easy to get this concept or this concept, you know. So it was quite interesting, and Expo is quite interesting framework. I like what they are building. And but by the way, React Native WebGL is a fork of Expo XGL. I mean, the React Native WebGL is the backend of the implementation of GL React WebGL. GL React Native. And so we use React Native WebGL. Recently, we have shifted to that. And this library is forked from Expo XGL, which have implemented a C++ implementation of WebGL. It's quite interesting. It's quite impressive work. And I have an open question of because recently, you know, I don't know if you have seen, Apple has said it won't support anymore OpenGL. So I wonder about the future of this. By the way, I don't know how we will. I don't know if they will continue supporting OpenGL implementation, because like a lot of apps that are shipped today probably will still rely on OpenGL. So it will be quite an interesting subject in the future.
Very cool.
So regarding Expo, so you're basically saying that they added the support for React Native GL as part of like the native SDK, or as part of the as part of the creating a new application.
Yeah, so basically Expo is shipped with GL View. The GL View is shipped inside Expo, and ideally it would be great if they could rely on rely on React Native WebGL, because basically I forked the GL View a few months ago, so it's not anymore up to date. So it would be really great if Expo would work with us, because it's also React Native WebGL is part of React Native community, React community group. So hopefully we will all rely on the same implementation, because it's already crazy to write this implementation. There's a lot of things to improve. So in the future, I think in the future we will all rely on this implementation. But basically Expo is shipped with this GL View, and because Expo is basically able to run your code even if you depend on a lot of React Native libraries. So the only way to do that is they have to package everything inside Expo. So that's why.
Very cool. And I know that you had before we started recording, you had mentioned something about you were working with some type of gaming stuff with React Native, or building games. Are you building actual games? Are you working on like frameworks around building games, or what is that about?
Yeah, so I used to do that in the past, but then I don't have any more time to maintain a big framework. So I mean, it's more hobbies, I don't really make games every day, but it's more hobbies. And basically during games, so there is some game jams I really like to participate, like for instance JS 13K. So basically this idea that you have to make a game in 13K of JavaScript. And I participate the past years to that, and also Ludum Dare, which is very interesting. I think it's 4 4 times per year. So they, like every 3 months, basically, you have a Ludum there. And that's basically 1 weekend of developing a game. So I like to participate to that because it's basically to explore a concept, like I have a concept in mind and let's try to make a game with this concept and let's see if it works or like even a technology or I don't know, like a field that I want to explore. So sometimes I explore music. Also, I really enjoy programming music, with web audio. It's very interesting stuff. So a lot of fields to explore.
What was the website? JS Certain K?
Yes. JS13k.games. JS13k games.
Okay, cool.
Games.com, I think, yeah.
Found it. Yeah, very nice. I didn't know about this. So do you have some games already up on your GitHub? Just things that you've made in the past?
Yeah, I think all my games are on greweb. So my username is greweb.itch.io. I think I have put all the games in this.
Nice. Cool. Very nice. I was like looking at that stuff.
So are these games like React Native or are they just JavaScript in general?
They are all JavaScript. Some are webgl, some are just Canvas, some have are a mixed up of both. Because you can. It's quite interesting that you can make 2D games and just write some shaders on top of it, and then it makes everything so beautiful. Like for instance, Behind Asteroid is a game I wrote I think 3 years ago, and I actually won the GS13K game jam 3 years ago. So I think I just won because it was interesting effects on top of just a simple game, but it basically I actually had fun re-implementing this game with GL React. So because it's basically a stack of effects. And I think, I even have an example in GL React cookbook that shows this game and how the effects pipe into each other. Because you can also inspect and see what the tree of effects is with GL React. So you can see really how things are piping into each other. So, yeah.
So if someone wants to develop a game in JavaScript, do you recommend them to use like a framework, or do you recommend them to kind of like mix frameworks with other I guess NPM packages and things like that, similar to GL React, and also kind of what did you use to build this game? Did you use completely the GL React and GL transitions, or did you kind of use a framework as well?
I guess it depends on the game. So for instance, the game I was talking about was just made with directly using Canvas 2D API and just some simple shaders with WebGL. So basically a mashup of the two technology. But I guess I would really recommend people to use Pixie.js if it's a 2D game, and if it's a 3D game where you have a well-defined scene, like classic 3D game, let's say that. I would probably recommend Three.js, and it's probably the most popular framework. So I guess even Pixie.js is probably the most popular. So these two are quite well known. And probably it depends on your domain of expertise as well. Like if you are good developers, then probably you can use this. If you want to focus more on the design stuff, there's probably more easier frameworks that don't require so much programming. If you look at Ludum there, what people are using, I think most of them are using I can't remember the name, but basically it's quite an easy, so you don't have really to do much programming into it, so you really focus on design.
Nice. Oh man, that's super cool. What's funny is everybody's always attracted to talking about games. I know you mentioned that you're doing things with cryptocurrency, but I just logged into Coinbase and I lost so much money over the weekend. I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
I think that's everybody.
I've been keeping up with that. It's crazy. I know that it's been a few months since I got out, but it wasn't like I got out because I was up. I was actually a little bit down because it was right after that last dip, but I would be way more down now. And the reason I got out was because I needed the money for like, we were moving and stuff. So we didn't want to, but anyway, yeah, I've been keeping up, but it's kind of crazy right now.
That should be the next game, is like defending your cryptocurrency. It's your asteroids game, but instead you're shooting cryptocurrency to stop people from removing their money. I have no idea. This is a terrible game.
You've done some programming around blockchain or technology as well?
Yeah. So in the context of my company, I learned a bit Solidity, which is the language in Ethereum. So basically, you can write smart contracts in it. It's really interesting. And it's funny because they have an example called Crypto Zombie. So it's basically a tutorial and Crypto Zombies, yes. And so it's quite interesting because it's basically a game on the blockchain. So it was quite in my domain of interest. But yeah, my company is quite interesting because we don't really care if the Bitcoin goes down or up, because we are developing a hardware wallet. So we are not so much impacted by that. And because we are really more on the security side of this, and we are independent from any currencies, or even if cryptocurrencies dies, we still can do things because we are like really focused on security and basically the technology of the credit cards and things like that into this device. So yeah, it's quite interesting domain.
And, can you talk about your company a little bit? I'm kind of interested to hear about the company, how you started with it, and what technologies exactly you are using other than, I guess, Solidity.
Yeah, so the company is called Ledger, and we are a French-based company. I think it was founded 3 or 4 years ago. And recently really exploded. Like we moved from maybe 10 employees to more than 100. And so basically what we are doing is developing, we are making a hardware wallet. So it looks like a USB stick, except it has a screen on it. And this device can work in USB, and basically allows you to sign transactions. And so you initialize this device with a seed, and it never exposed to the software side the private keys. So it's like we can also call it a cold wallet. So basically you are sure the private key will never be exposed. So if you even have a virus on your computer, you are quite safe, because this device have a chip that is a secure element. So that is really hard to hack. So yeah, it's quite interesting. But me, I'm just a front end here, so I'm more focused on the front end development, which is also has its challenges. So it's quite interesting because so we are also so as I said, we are developing a React Native app, and it's really a mashup of technologies, because you have this device on one side, and on the other side we have some API for counter values. We have a C++ library that handles all the crypto algorithm and things like that. So to manage transactions and to create transactions, things like that. And the device will sign it at the end. So we are really in the middle, and we have a lot of challenges to work on. Just of course, just for the UX, the user experience, to make a nice user experience. So yeah, it's quite interesting, and I'm super excited by this app we will release soon. So right now we are already focused on developing the desktop app that should come next month. So yeah, we will have a lot of challenges, and probably the end of the year we will have the mobile version. So yeah, that will be interesting.
Super interesting and super cool that y'all are using React Native there. I'm kind of curious, what exactly does a crypto wallet do for people that kind of may not understand that? And is a crypto wallet kind of the end goal for the company, or or is this kind of just building the initial product and then you maybe want to add more functionality as well? So
basically, we have the technology to make like the secure element things, like this is basically our domain of expertise. And as I said, it's not only for cryptocurrencies. It could be developed for many fields. But yeah, right now we are in cryptocurrencies, and so basically, I think we are the most famous company for hardware wallets. So, but yeah, there is I think 1 million device sold, so it's quite huge, quite impressive, and so yeah, I think as soon as you have more than $1,000 value, probably you want to look at solutions that allows you to store to really own your storage, because if you rely on an exchange, then if they got hacked or if the exit scam, you are screwed. But here, basically, you own your private key, but without the inconvenient to have to be hacked yourself, because if your private key lives on the software side, and if you have a virus, then it can take your private keys. So yeah, that's what the called hardware wallet is for. So that's one way to secure your cryptocurrencies. I think it's the most secure way. Yeah. So that's quite interesting.
Nice.
So I guess if someone wants to kind of get started working with any of these libraries that are focused around GL, so I guess that would be GL React Native and the GL transitions and for web and for React. What would be the best way for them to kind of get started, and what are some things that they should probably know up front before getting started with them?
I guess really we should really start with what you really need, and really understand what are the trade-offs of this library. I think we have a trade-offs.md.markdown that basically write all the things this library is not for. And probably you can write more. I think the list is long, but this basically the use case of this library is really if you want to make image effects or even on top of videos or things like that. But yeah, the best way to look at what we can do with it is to look at the cookbook, GL React cookbook, something. I mean, if you go to the GitHub, you will have the link. And yeah, if you find a use case that covers your needs, then you can probably use it. I guess for the web, it's really mature, the web implementation, because WebGL has been here for years, and it's quite stable now. But for React Native and Expo implementations, probably be careful and expect it's not so efficient as it seems. So basically try and see if it works for you. It's a bit tricky to develop with it right now. I'm talking about the React Native implementation, because if you use the simulator, it's quite slow. And it's not because of GL React or because even of React Native WebGL. It's basically all OpenGL implementation, or the GL view itself is really slow on simulator, so it's not easy to debug and to develop with it. But when you develop in production mode, then it's much more faster. But yeah, it's quite. It covers already a lot of interesting things. Like for instance, the Expo implementation have support for the camera, and you can even do effects on top of camera. So I recommend you to look at what they do as well, because they are doing even some games. So Expo are working on. I think they have Expo 3 and Expo Pixie, which is basically the port of Pixie and 3 into this into Expo GLU. So yeah, look at what one of their developer is called Evan Bacon. He's doing really crazy stuff with this. So yeah, if you want to dig more into what you can do with with GL and in the context of Expo, for instance. Look at what he is doing. And if you really want to make a game or use OpenGL to much more efficient things, probably you will want to just use a native implementation, or maybe even something on top of Metal or like whatever is the closest to a native implementation. Of course, it will require more work, but if you're like if it's really critical and it's quite a crazy thing, like a huge 3D model or something like that, maybe you want to look at native implementation first if the JavaScript version doesn't work, like is not performant enough for you.
Very cool. That's awesome. So totally, I'm going to be checking out some of this stuff. I've never really worked with OpenGL at all in the first place, to be honest. So I'm probably going to take a quick look at that, or maybe a deep dive in that before messing around with the GL React Native. But it's super interesting stuff, actually. I didn't realize you could do a lot of the stuff that I'm seeing. I'm just kind of playing around some of the examples. Who maintains the cookbook? Is that you as well? Or is that like another contributor?
Yes, I maintain the cookbook, and basically I maintain all GL React libraries. I don't maintain much the implementations like React Native WebGL. I mean, I did the initial fork, but then it's a bit crazier to maintain it. But yeah, there's a lot of interesting. It's quite interesting but it sounds like a hack initially, but then we found a real use case. But like trying to bring like another field into React, and it's quite interesting. You have a lot of libraries like that. For instance, you have React Music, which basically implemented on top of Web Audio. You have something for Arduino. You know, it's quite interesting. So yeah, but basically, like all of these libraries try to bring the React paradigm into a field that is more imperative, because like that's what React has achieved on top of DOM. Initially DOM is mutable, it's has side effects and everything, and React is some kind of abstraction on top of that. With this idea that you can just always render the same full virtual DOM of all your app, and then it will just work. So like an immutable representation of your app. It's quite so basically we try to do the same with GL React, with React Music and everything. So yeah, it's quite interesting. And if you look at it also, like the first time I entered React, I immediately thought it was exactly like in game development. We have you usually have an update loop with a render loop you run every 60 frames per second. And it's exactly the same paradigm, actually. It's quite interesting. You have some same ideas. You have a render function that do everything.
Well, for anyone listening, also, I'm going through the cookbook, and the cookbook is less of a book, and it's actually a nice interactive website. So it's kind of a cool way to kind of see the code in action, and I would definitely recommend checking it out. So I think we're kind of getting close to being finished on time. Is there anything that you'd like us to kind of discuss that we haven't really gone over yet that you'd like to go over?
So yeah, maybe one interesting library recently that came to light is React Native DOM, which was I think announced released at React Europe recently. And it's quite really crazy idea that they basically have re-implemented React Native, but on top of web. And there were previously some attempt of doing that. I can't remember the names exactly, but there were a few attempts. And this one takes another another look at it and tries to basically just re-implement everything. And so basically the benefits the existing components that is implemented in JavaScript in React Native. And basically you can run your app, you can run a React Native app on the web. So I think it's quite it's definitely quite a crazy idea, but probably it has some use case in for instance making cookbooks, or you want to render some part of your app onto the web to make a demo or things like that. So yeah, maybe check this out. It's quite interesting. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I've actually been keeping up with it. Yeah, it's super cool. I haven't played with it yet or used it at all. I think we're actually going to have Vincent, the creator of that, on the show next week. So I'm hoping to learn a lot more about it. Have you actually tried it out yet?
Not yet, but we'll see. We'll see if I find a use case of that.
Yeah, right. That's awesome. Cool. Well, okay. I think we can go ahead and get to the picks. Gant, do you have any picks for the show today?
When you start a new project, typically you need things like a domain name, hosting, things like that. When I choose hosting, I pick mine for the options it gives. I like to know what I'm getting and set things up just how I like them. This is why, for your projects, you should check out Linode. Linode servers feature native SSD storage, a 40 gigabyte network, and Intel E5 processors. That's all the power you need to run VMs under full control, or Docker containers, who doesn't love that, encrypted disks, and VPNs. Plus, they have 10 data centers across the world and add-ons like backups, Node Balancer, and Longview to help you control your server costs. They also offer block storage for your static files, and you can get started with a $20 credit if you use the code ReactNative2018. That credit is good for 4 months on their 1 gigabyte server. That's a lot of time to try them out and see if they're the right fit for you. That code again is ReactNative2018. Also, if you're interested in working for Linode, they're hiring. Head to linode.com/careers to see their available positions.
If I have to do a couple of picks, one will be definitely React Native, which is talking about the React Native conference that we're throwing in Portland, Chain React. You could just search for Chain React Conf, and we have a huge lineup. It looks like we're probably going to sell out, so you really want to grab those soon, especially if you're interested in learning new and cool things about React Native. And we have speakers from all the major companies, Expo, Formidable, Facebook, etc. And then you'll get to probably meet Nader and I. We'll be there. And it'll be a lot of fun. And additionally, I have another non-React Native thing that I'd love to mention. Is I've recently sort of learned a lot about machine learning. And so I did my very first free code camp blog post about getting motivated. It's called Machine Learning from Zero to Hero. Just kind of highly recommend if you take a look at it and you have any feedback, tweet it at me. I'd love to hear what you think.
So I have 2 picks. One of them is, actually I have 3 picks. One of them is the Open GraphQL Medium publication. I started that along with around 8 or 9 other people that are part of the GraphQL community. If you're interested in kind of keeping up with what's going on in the GraphQL community with a non-biased point of view, I would definitely check it out. It's completely open to contributions as well. So if you're blogging about anything related to GraphQL, whether it be Apollo or whether it be anything around Prisma and GraphQL and that type of stuff, or just about GraphQL in general, definitely reach out and we'll make you a writer. My second pick is a blog post that I wrote last week called Building Serverless Mobile Applications with React Native and AWS. It's gotten picked up by quite a few newsletters and stuff. It's done really well. I think if you're interested in building stuff that interacts with cloud services, check it out. It goes through a lot of different things like authentication, authorization, serverless with Lambda functions, and all kinds of things like that. And then my last pick is I got to visit Bucharest, Romania last week, and it's a really, really interesting city. And it was actually really inexpensive coming from the United States, at least to stay there. So if you want to go somewhere in Eastern Europe that has a pretty nice night scene and also a lot of things to do in general on a budget, you can basically, at least for me, you can eat for $5 or $10 at the most, even in the most populated tourist areas. The hotels and the transportation were really inexpensive, and the people there were super nice. So I would recommend going there and maybe checking it out if you have a chance to visit Eastern Europe. Also, I guess one last thing, plugging the Chain React conference as well. I'll be there, and if you're interested in React Native, which you probably are, I would definitely recommend putting that as one of the main conferences on your list if you're kind of considering a few. We went last year. It was awesome. The location's great. The hosts were great. The talks were great. And I'm assuming that since this is their second year doing it, it'll be even better this year. So definitely check it out. So Gaëtan, do you have any picks today?
Yeah, so if you guys are interested in making games, or even if you have not made a game yet, I really recommend you to try making a game during Ludum Dare, which happens a few times a year. And try this and try to make something. It's quite interesting field because you explore a lot of different things. Also, if you are interested in some in cryptocurrencies world, I really recommend you to look at crypto zombies, which is like a tutorial, and you learn to write contracts, basically like smart contracts. It's quite interesting. Take a look at that, and it's actually close to JavaScript. Like the syntax, it looks like JavaScript. And finally, just want to say that I think it's end of this month. I will participate to a hackathon, which is made by Ubisoft, and it's actually a blockchain versus a game by Ubisoft in not so far from Paris. So yeah, I think I will be a jury there. So if you guys want to come, feel free.
Nice.
Very cool. Well, once again, I want to really thank you for coming on, Gaëtan, and taking the time out of your schedule to join us. I think we discussed some really cool stuff today.
Sure. Yeah, that was very, very fun to share about this. And thanks you a lot for inviting me to this show.
Well, that wraps up our episode of React Native Radio. Look forward to seeing everyone next week.